Okay, so like everyone wants to know the secret to wealth, right? I mean, it's not just about, saving pennies for retirement, but like really building something that lasts.
Right, exactly.
And that's what we're diving into today with The Millionaire Fastlane.
Yeah,
Have you heard of it?
absolutely. It's a great book.
It's by MJ DeMarco, and he kind of throws that whole get rich slow idea out the window.
He does. Yeah,
Yeah.
he really emphasizes hitting the gas pedal, as he puts it, to build wealth.
I love that. So tell me a little bit about DeMarco. Like, what makes his story so compelling?
Well, he really lived it. He went from literally living at home with his mom to being financially free by the time he was like in his 30s,
Wow, that's impressive.
and all through entrepreneurship. And in his book, he's basically like telling us, stop waiting around hoping to get rich.
Mm.
There's a
Oh,
way faster lane to wealth.
okay. I am so intrigued, but like, there's always that little voice in my head that's like, be careful.
Mm.
What makes DeMarco's approach different from, those get rich quick schemes we see everywhere?
Oh, he hates those.
Okay.
Yeah, DeMarco actually really criticizes those get-rich-quick schemes. He
Yeah.
actually doesn't promise a quick fix at all. What he really focuses on is building like solid businesses that generate real value.
Right.
He calls it the fast lane. And it's all based on this idea that wealth isn't like about, getting lucky or inheriting a bunch of money. It's really about creating something that, impacts a lot of people.
Okay, so it's less about like winning the lottery or getting an inheritance, and it's more about building something that actually helps people.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's where I think it gets like really interesting. He lays out 3 different financial roadmaps. He calls them the sidewalk, the slow lane, and then the fast lane, which is, the one he's advocating for.
Okay, so break those down for me. I'm guessing a lot of us are probably stuck in the slow lane, just working hard, saving what we can, and, hoping that it all works out in the end.
Yeah, probably. The slow lane is like that classic path we all know. Work your 9 to 5, save as much as you can, put a little bit in the stock market, and hope for the best. It's a responsible thing to do, sure. But DeMarco would argue that it's really, really slow. And especially, like in today's world, you might just end up getting rich, like when you're old,
Huh.
rather than getting rich quickly.
Yeah. Get rich old, not get rich quick, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so what's the sidewalk then? I'm a little afraid to ask.
Yeah, well, the sidewalk, think of that as like instant gratification. Living paycheck to paycheck,
Oh, no.
racking up debt. Yeah. Maybe blaming other people for your, struggles financially. Yeah, and essentially that's the path to just like financial instability forever.
Oof. I've been there. I think we've all, maybe made those impulse purchases, that we regret.
Yeah, we all have. But DeMarco's whole point is that all these little choices, they really add up over time, and they kind of determine which lane you end up in. And if you're looking for a real path to building wealth, the fast lane is definitely the one that gives you like the most control and the fastest route to get there.
Okay, let's talk about that fast lane. How does DeMarco actually define this path to, financial success and wealth?
So the fast lane is basically like the entrepreneurial highway. It's about creating a business, scaling it up, and making sure that it's a business that solves a problem for a lot of people.
Right.
Like, think of it this way. Think of like a rapper that sells millions of albums.
Okay.
They're impacting, millions of fans.
Yeah.
Or like a stay-at-home mom who like invents this awesome kitchen gadget, and she sells millions of units. She's making life easier for all those people who are spending time in the kitchen. That's the kind of impact that fuels fast lane wealth.
I love that. So it's not just about like lining your own pockets. It's about really creating something that helps people.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where his law of affection comes in.
Yeah.
He argues that like the more people your business can impact in a positive way, the more wealth you can generate.
Okay.
So when you're thinking about your business idea, ask yourself, like, how many lives could this possibly, potentially touch?
That's a good question.
If the answer is millions, you might be onto something big with real fast lane potential.
Okay, I'm starting to get the big picture here, but like building a business from scratch, that's a little daunting, don't you think?
Yeah, it can be.
So DeMarco wouldn't leave us hanging without some sort of plan, right?
Oh, he definitely wouldn't.
Okay.
Starting any journey, you need a good map. And he's got a really interesting one. He compares building wealth to going on like a road trip, and he's got these 4 key components.
Oh, I love analogies. Tell me more.
All right, so first you have the vehicle, and that represents you, your mindset, what you believe, and ultimately all the choices that you make along the way.
Okay.
And DeMarco's like a big believer in that whole idea that, your thoughts create your reality.
Right.
So if you're stuck thinking like, oh, there's not enough to go around or wealth is only for certain people, well, you're probably not going to reach your full potential.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like having a car that's all beat up and the tires are flat.
Yeah.
You're not going to get very far on that road trip.
No.
You need like a high-performance car to reach your destination quickly. And in this case, that high-performance car is you.
Okay, so we've got our vehicle tuned up and we're ready to hit the road. What about the roadmap? Like, what direction are we even going in?
Well, the roadmap is all about choosing the right path. Do you remember the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane?
Yeah.
Like we talked about before. The fast lane is the one DeMarco really pushes for, the fastest way to build wealth. It focuses on being an entrepreneur and really impacting people. But just choosing the fast lane, that's just the first step. You also need to pick the right roads to travel on.
Okay, so what do the roads represent?
The roads are the actual businesses that you choose to create.
Right.
And in the fast lane world, like, not all businesses are created equal.
Of course not.
DeMarco really stresses picking a business that can potentially impact a lot of people's lives.
Right.
Again, going back to that law of affection.
I see.
He actually has 5 commandments to help you choose the right road.
Okay.
But we can get into those a little bit later.
Okay, so we're choosing the right business. Got it. I'm starting to see how all these pieces of the road trip kind of work together. So how about speed? What's that all about? Does that just mean working really, really hard?
It's more than just hard work, it's execution. Actually putting your ideas into action quickly. Like, think of it like this. You could have the best car in the world and the most detailed map, but if you're driving like 2 miles an hour, you're never going to get there.
Right, you'll never reach your destination.
Exactly. So It's about taking action.
Yeah.
Don't get bogged down in overthinking or trying to make everything perfect.
Oh, I am so guilty of that.
Yeah. DeMarco even tells this story about investing like $100,000 in an internet company early on. And it was a risk, but he saw the potential and he went for it. So he really encourages you to take risks, but make sure they're intelligent risks.
Okay, that takes some guts.
Yeah.
I can definitely see how shifting from, just planning to doing is like essential in the fast lane.
Absolutely. It's huge.
Yeah.
And there's one more part of this whole speed idea, and that's DeMarco's emphasis on shifting away from always consuming to actually producing.
Okay, break that down for me, please.
Okay. So it's about moving away from always buying stuff and focusing instead on creating and providing value to others.
Mm-hmm.
Like, flip the script, Instead of always being the person buying the latest gadgets, you become the one who's actually like making those products and services that other people, want and need.
So like being in the driver's seat as opposed to being the passenger. Right.
Yes, exactly.
Take control of the wheel and plan your own route.
Yes. It's about being the one who's producing the value, not just consuming. And that actually ties right back into the whole like mindset and perception that we were talking about before. Remember how you believe really shapes what you do, and what you do ultimately determines your results.
This is all making so much sense. I love how DeMarco takes all these ideas and puts them into a framework that helps you actually build wealth. But before we get too far into like the nitty-gritty of actually building that fast lane business, let's take a step back.
Okay.
And talk about some of the tools that DeMarco gives us for making better decisions, like along the way.
Yeah.
You mentioned tools for making smarter decisions. What are some of those?
Yeah, so he introduces this concept called the worst case consequence analysis.
Okay.
WCCA. It's all about really thinking through like the potential downsides of a decision before you jump all in.
So it's basically like a way to manage risk, right? Like really think about what could go wrong before you go for it.
Exactly. It encourages you to like really ask yourself, okay, what's like the absolute worst thing that could happen if I take this risk?
Yeah.
And like, can I handle those consequences?
Right.
If the answer is no, then you probably need to rethink things a little bit,
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like balancing that excitement of a new idea with like being practical.
Right, exactly. And then he also has this other tool, the weighted average decision matrix at WADM. Yeah.
What is that?
That's like a more kind of analytical approach to making decisions.
Yeah.
Helps you, put numbers to the pros and cons of different options.
Oh, that's interesting. So it brings like more objectivity into it.
Exactly. Yeah, you assign weights to different things based on how important they are to you, and then you score each option. It helps you make those tough calls based on like logic, instead of just your emotions, you know?
I love that. That would be so helpful when you're facing those tough decisions, especially as an entrepreneur. But let's go back to the road trip analogy for a second. We talked about the vehicle, the roadmap, the speed. But what about those roads? Those are the actual businesses that we're creating. You said DeMarco had like 5 commandments for choosing the right road.
He does, yeah. So the first one is need. Your business really needs to solve a problem, like a real problem,
Right.
or fill a need that people actually have.
Makes sense.
If you're just making up a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, you're probably going down the wrong road.
Yeah, I see that.
The second commandment is entry.
Okay.
Like, how easy is it
Uh-huh.
to actually get into this market? If it's like super hard to get in, you might have a tough time right from the start.
So you're saying it's about finding that balance, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a real need, but it's not impossible to actually get your foot in the door.
Exactly. Yeah. Then there's control. DeMarco's really big on having control over your business.
Okay, yeah.
If you're like constantly relying on other people's decisions, are you really in charge?
Right, like how do you measure control?
Ask yourself, can I actually grow this business without being like chained to it 24/7?
Hmm?
Can I set things up so that it runs even if I'm, not there, like
Yeah.
every second?
Right.
That kind of leads into the fourth commandment, which is scale.
Okay.
Can your business like reach a lot of people?
Hmm.
Remember the law of affection.
Yeah.
The more people you can impact, the bigger your potential for wealth.
Right, right. Okay, so your business has to be scalable. What's the last commandment?
Okay, the fifth one, and this is, maybe the most important, time.
Okay.
Your business should like free you up, not trap you. So ask yourself, does your business let you like use your time wisely? Can you eventually step back without everything falling apart?
Right, that's a good question.
If the answer is no, you might be building a job for yourself, not a fast lane business.
Okay, I love these 5 commandments. They're so insightful. They really help you like understand what makes a business a good fit for the fast lane. But let's go back to a concept that we talked about earlier. This whole idea of shifting from like a consumer mindset to a producer mindset. It feels like that's so important to this whole fast lane philosophy.
Yeah, it's a big shift in how you think, like moving away from just buying all the time and instead, focusing on creating and providing value.
Right.
It goes hand in hand with what DeMarco says about like producing more than you consume.
I used to think that like getting a new phone every year was a must. Like
Yeah.
I had to have the newest, the shiniest gadget.
Right.
And then I realized I was just stuck in this cycle of always buying stuff. I was always chasing the next, shiny object.
Yeah.
But I never felt truly satisfied. Reading DeMarco's book really helped me break free from that mentality.
I think that's a great example of like how sneaky that consumer mindset can be.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about like the stuff you buy,
Right.
It can be about your time and energy too.
Right. Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in like watching TV or scrolling through social media or even like comparing yourself to other people's successes instead of, focusing on what you can actually create.
Exactly. And it's about, realizing that you have the power to create value and make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And that's where that shift to a producer mindset comes in.
So how do we actually make that shift? How do we, get out of that consumer mindset and become producers?
It starts with being aware of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Noticing when you're falling into that trap of just consuming and then, making a conscious choice to shift your energy towards creating. Ask yourself, what can I make today? Even if it's something small, that adds value to the world.
So it could be anything, right? It could be writing a blog post or designing a website or even just, making dinner for your family.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about nurturing that creativity you have inside of you.
I love that.
And the more you create, the more confident you become. And that makes you want to create even more.
So it's like a positive feedback loop. You create, you get more confident, and that makes you want to create even more.
Exactly. And that shift, it's not just about like making money. It's also about feeling good about yourself.
Yeah.
Taking control of your money, your life, and doing something meaningful with it.
It's about creating something bigger than yourself, something that really makes a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think makes DeMarco's fast lane philosophy so cool. It's not just about getting rich. It's about, creating a life that has meaning, a life where you're making a real impact and where you feel happy and fulfilled.
And that's something I think our listeners can really connect with. They're looking for more than just, a paycheck.
Right.
They want to build something that matters and leave something behind.
Absolutely. And DeMarco's book really lays out like a path for how to do that.
Okay, so we've talked about the vehicle, the roadmap, the roads, and the speed. But there's one more piece of this puzzle we haven't really touched on yet, and that's DeMarco's emphasis on having a unique selling proposition, or a USP.
Oh, yeah. You're right. That's really important, especially if you want to build a business that really takes off.
Can you tell us a bit more about what a USP actually is and why it matters so much?
Sure. So a USP is basically what makes you stand out from everybody else who's doing the same thing. It's that, special something, that benefit you offer that nobody else can copy or match.
Got it. So it's like your secret weapon. It's that thing that makes people choose you instead of, the other guy.
Exactly, yeah. Having a strong USP helps you bring in customers, build a strong brand, and you can even charge more for what you offer because of it.
Right.
Think of it like, in a world where everybody's selling vanilla ice cream, you're the one selling like chocolate chip cookie dough or salted caramel.
Okay. I like that. I can get behind that analogy. Can you give me some real world examples? Like, what are some businesses that really nailed their USP?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Think about FedEx. Their USP was like when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight.
Right. I remember that.
They totally changed the game by like guaranteeing that overnight delivery. No one else was doing that.
Right.
Or how about M&Ms? Their USP is melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
Yeah.
It's catchy, it's easy to remember, and it tells you exactly what makes their chocolate different from like all the other candy bars out there.
Simple and effective.
And then like Domino's Pizza, they built this whole empire on their promise of delivered in 30 minutes or less or it's free. It was all about being fast and convenient, something that anyone who wants pizza really cares about.
Right. So all these examples, they show how, if you have a really good USP, it sticks in people's minds and it makes your brand stand out. But it's not just about having a catchy slogan, though, right?
No, you're right. It's got to be more than just clever marketing.
Yeah.
A good USP comes from understanding your audience, figuring out what they need, what their pain points are, and then offering a solution that nobody else has.
So it's about giving people real value, not just, coming up with some kind of gimmick and then explaining that value in a way that people understand.
Exactly, yeah. And this is where DeMarco's idea of creating value comes in again.
I see.
Your USP should be based on what you're actually doing to help people. Think of it like a promise you're making to your customers, the reason they pick you over everyone else.
I'm starting to see how a well-thought-out USP can be, like the foundation of a successful Fastlane business. It's about setting yourself apart, giving real value and connecting with the right people.
Exactly. It all goes back to like DeMarco's main point, which is about taking charge, building something that you're passionate about, and creating the life you really want.
I love it. This has been such an insightful conversation. We've talked about so much, ditching the slow lane, embracing the fast lane, building a business that solves problems, and making sure you have that strong USP. But before we wrap things up, something's been on my mind. We've talked a lot about finding the right business, having that killer USP, and achieving that financial success. But what if the real secret to this whole fast lane thing isn't just about the business you build, but about the person you become along the way?
You're saying it's about more than just like the end goal.
Exactly. Like, what if the real wealth is actually in the skills you learn, how you handle those tough times, and the difference you make in the world while you're building your fast lane empire?
I like that. It's not just about the fancy car in the driveway. It's about who you are behind the wheel. And that actually fits with what DeMarco says about personal growth and giving back. He talks about like not being so focused on the outcome that you miss the journey itself. All those lessons you learn along the way.
It's about enjoying the ride, even when things get tough.
Right. And that's where you find the real satisfaction in always learning, always getting better, and believing that you can create the life you want.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Millionaire Fastlane, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. Don't just chase the dream. Become the kind of person who attracts the dream.
Love it. Build the mindset, learn the skills, live the values that match your Fastlane goals.
It's about growing as a person and making a difference, not just focusing on the money.
Exactly. Because true wealth is about way more than just, dollar signs.
It's about purpose and impact and feeling truly fulfilled.
And remember, the fast lane isn't like a magic trick. It takes work and dedication, and you got to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone.
But for those who are ready to ditch the slow lane and go after what they really want, the Millionaire Fastlane is a great place to start.
It's full of advice and strategies to help you change your thinking, create a killer business plan, and reach that financial freedom you're after.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Millionaire Fastlane. We hope you've learned a lot and that you feel inspired to create your own path to financial freedom and a life that you truly love.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep driving in that fast lane.